Welcome to Wednesdays with Willa. I am your host, Willa White, and this is my weekly podcast show that airs on Wednesday mornings at 10 a.m. Eastern on my Facebook page, Willa White Medium. I encourage you to like and share and follow, and you can also subscribe to my YouTube channel, where I will make sure that this gets put up later on, so you can view it on that platform if it's easier for you. This also goes out on blogtalkradio.com/Lilydale Radio. I'm part of the Lilydale Radio family, so there's a symposium of shows that happens throughout the week, and I encourage you, that's a listen-only podcast version, so you can check those out, or check us out on Facebook, also on the Lilydale Assembly Facebook page. So on my particular show, I usually have a special guest, and we cover a topic relating to spiritualism, healing, mediumship, faith, family, or more. And it's always wonderful to explore these conversations with my guests. And today I am blessed to have back on the show Tom Cratsley. Thanks for being here today, Tom.
Well, thank you for having me.
Tom is a spiritual healer and a restructuring practitioner. He's also a spiritual teacher of healing, and I encourage you to take a look at his healing mastery program that is coming up for the summer every
summer, and it usually commences starting the first Sunday after the 4th of July.
Okay. That's his usual time slot.
It goes for a week from Sunday to Friday.
And you get a whole amazing program with Tom here in Lilydale in person at the Healing Temple.
Right, and the opportunity to work in the Healing Temple as well.
Yeah. It's very, very special. So the new program, just so in case anybody's curious, it won't come out until probably February, March, that sort of thing for 2023. But just so you can start marking your calendars, if you're a person who is really interested in healing, Tom is an excellent instructor in spiritual healing. And he's been on the show before. I encourage you to look back at the archive videos of Wednesdays with Willa. You can type Tom Cratsley in, and you'll be able to get Entering Superconsciousness. That was a great conversation, and Tom even gave us a meditation for accessing the domains of consciousness. And we also talked about Andrew Jackson Davis. Tom's a huge fan, as I am, of Andrew Jackson Davis, so everything you wanted to know about him. Also, restructuring bad habits, healing with the voice. I remember that one was great too. And then spiritism versus spiritualism. So if you want to know the difference of those things, look back at the archive videos of the show. Today, we're going to be focusing on spirituality versus technology, a healer's perspective. And I can't wait to hear what my guest, Tom Cratsley, has to share about that today.
Yeah. I mean, it's an interesting title. I mean, the title may not be totally exact about what we're going to be discussing, but I think it's a very important issue that we're all facing at this time. And that is, how is technology in any way minimizing or making greater difficulty for us to be in touch with our greater consciousness and the full range of who we are as human beings. And I think that's really important. What's happening from my perspective and what I've been observing, at least over the last 2 decades, is that we've been more and more relying on, if you will, technological assistance in our daily lives.
Yes, we are.
Like this, right?
Like this.
But relying on it as to the degree that we're also letting go of some of our other skills and abilities and habits. For instance, and one of the things that I think COVID has brought this even to another level, because it's actually forced us to rely on technology to an even greater degree. And as a result, I think many, many people are losing social skills.
I would agree with that.
and what is it that supports us in having good social skills? It is our capacity to sense and perceive things on many levels.
Yeah.
So when we're with people, we haven't even learned as a society to honor our perceptual skills. So we're constantly picking up cues
Yes.
from people in a variety of ways, and not just body language. I believe there are other sensory apparatus that the human being uses, that we as human beings use, to figure out situations, circumstances that we're in, life experiences, and we measure everything with a variety of these skills.
Yes.
Right? Well, when you're not using these skills, they go dormant.
Right. It's like if you don't exercise and then you wonder why you don't have muscles anymore.
Exactly. Exactly. And so I feel, I particularly feel sorry for young people at this time, because on top of everything, COVID had forced them into being in technological holes, if you will.
Yes.
You know, and you know, the stories abound of more with young men, you know, just getting caught in doing nothing but playing video games.
Right. And that's all their life is, and they don't even care if they have a mate or a family. They're just so enamored with their screen and what's happening there that they miss the boat.
Yeah. And I can honestly, you know, there were times when I can understand that, because I have myself at times been hooked on exploring YouTube.
Well, yeah, you could go down the rabbit hole. It's like all of a sudden there's another video and there's this and that.
There you go.
A podcast that's amazing.
Yeah. Yeah. And then there's algorithms that tell you, that tell the video company, oh, well, if he likes this, he's going to like this, he's going to like that, right?
More.
So more, right?
You can become quite addicted.
You do.
There is a legit study that's been done about people being addicted to their screen time, to Facebook, to the likes, the shares, all of those things, but also that screen time and what it does energetically with a person.
Yeah.
It's quite profound.
Now, what's interesting to me is, I don't know, it's a little bit different. I've never been hooked on too much of the social media, but I did get hooked on, I'm endlessly curious, so I get hooked on YouTube,
Yeah, the eternal student starts to go, hey, I don't even have to go into a classroom to learn some of these things. It's right there. Or for some people, they don't have to read a book because they get somebody else's synopsis.
Yeah.
And with whiz-bang technology, so that they can have, while things are being described, they get video of other things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, and then there's another important piece. I think technology has made our lives noisier.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yes.
So our opportunities for periods of silence have diminished.
Mm-hmm.
For most people.
Yes.
Right? And the importance of silence is that even by accident, people will sometimes be in touch with their inner soul, their inner spirit.
What Tanya said, sometimes by accident.
Yeah. Because it's in those moments that inner voice seems louder.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. The inner voice all of a sudden is able to get through some of the other things, and it's usually more of the soft, quiet voice. The voice of the soul is not something that usually is very demanding like the other things of our life, people, or the notifications on phones. Yeah. Those distractors from things. All of a sudden we can hear that soul's voice speaking to us, that one within us that is connected to God, to all that is. Yeah. It's a beautiful thing.
And then, you watch all the time. I see it, everybody, the stories abound about people being in restaurants and everyone on a cell phone, sitting at the same table with like three people on their own cell phones.
Yeah. Yes. And so they're not really having social time. They're just happening to sit next or near one another on their phones, and they will actually literally text. And be sharing stuff during that time. I've been to instances where people are like, have you seen this meme? Have you seen this video? Have you, it becomes about that.
Well, no, I can understand those where you're sharing, you're sharing off the same. But when three people at the same table are not sharing, they're looking at their own information.
Yes. Well,
that's coming through.
Somehow that's more entertaining or more valuable to focus on in that particular moment than the interplay. So there's a social skill aspect that has been hampered.
Yes.
By technology. Absolutely. Significantly. And so like a person comes to Lilydale, and for the most part you don't see people on their devices.
Right.
For one point, they don't always have connection.
That's right.
On the technology level,
right.
And it's supposed to be a time of focusing on your own soul and on connection with spirit and healing and the quiet restorative power that is very present here. So people enjoy the excuse to slow down and maybe sit on a porch for a while. It's so funny how even in a reading, somebody in spirit will say to a client, you even felt guilty sitting on the porch waiting for your session today because you weren't doing anything. Yeah. And that, there's that sense of, do I fill this moment with something? Do I fill it with phone time? You go to, let's say, a doctor's office, and most people are sitting there on their phones. And they don't even bring a book anymore. Yeah. Or magazines are of the past as well. They don't have
magazines.
Them on the
You're right. Magazines.
Like
and I used to love going through magazines. I still like magazines when I could find one. Uh-huh. Yeah. I also want to mention something that's it's kind of more of a didactic approach to this subject, but it's from a book that was written, I think in the 60s or 70s, was called The Origin of Consciousness and the Breakdown of the Bicameral Mind by a man by the name of Julian Jaynes. And he's an academic. I can't remember where he's from. Now, I disagree with this thesis, but his conjecture was this, that at the time of Homer, there was a shift from right to left brain. That cultures were predominantly right brain before that period, and then they began to move into the logical, more scientific understanding of things in early Greek times, right? And that before that we weren't conscious. I don't buy that.
That's what I'm trying to. I'm like, okay.
I don't agree with that either. Anyway, but obviously his prejudice is that the more mathematical we become and the more logical in that sense that we become, the more conscious we are, and I don't buy that either. So
it does make me wince a bit too. Yes,
I think that the real goal is the balance. And Davis talks about that. He talks about the balance between reason and intuition.
Yeah, Andrew Jackson Davis.
Yeah, that's the important kind of balance point to reach for manifesting your spiritual potential.
And Andrew Jackson Davis, for those of you who don't know, he was able to move into super consciousness.
Yes. Yeah, and he called it the superior condition.
Yes.
Now, in the superior condition, you can do a number of things that are really quite remarkable. At least he was able to do it. And, the wonderful thing about Davis is he never thought himself as especially unique, or, above anybody.
So special. Superior minded means superior.
Yeah.
In that sense.
Yeah. He knew that these perceptual abilities were available to everybody if they moved in that direction, but he understood that the likelihood of people doing that was not very high. Yeah. But here's an example of the superior condition. You could ask him, what is the subsurface geology at these coordinates on the globe? And you could give him any coordinates, right? At a depth of 175 feet.
Wow.
And he would describe to you the nature of the rock formations, all the geological traits of that very specific point below the Earth's surface.
which to some extent is like remote viewing.
It is only with more understanding.
Yes, like This is Andrew Jackson Davis is someone who was virtually illiterate to begin with.
Yeah, when he began
his deep trance of spirit.
Yeah.
And then over time, Spirit shared such an amazing scientific revelation with him.
Yes. Yeah,
and that just things would trip off his tongue that had been shared.
Yes, in fact, early on, the first book that was written, he described, and this is in 1846. The book was published in 1847, but this part of his revelation came out in 1846. He described the surfaces of all the planets in the solar system, including two of the planets that hadn't been discovered yet, Neptune and Pluto. A lot of the information, in fact, most of the information, later verified by space probes.
As accurate.
100 years later.
Yeah. Yeah. So sometimes things are not of their time.
Yeah.
And people have to kind of come to that recognition. I mean, like Leadbeater, when he would go into the formation of elements and what molecules were joined with what molecules, and he was able to go into that periodic table of elements and get into the subquark level practically of these things. And then later on, scientists were amazed that he was right about the structure of certain ones, that he was accurate. Yeah, and so people have done it. Like, it encourages us that maybe someday we'll be able to.
I think that a lot of scientific breakthrough comes from people shifting into those states. And the key to me for all of that is actually not in the head, it's in the heart. When people develop a true love, a true affection for what they're doing, doesn't, in science, it's the same thing. A true love, true affection for what they're doing in the zone of science they're working in, then other things become available. They actually have relationship to the very thing they're studying and examining. Yes. Right? Whereas if you're only on a left brain course, you don't have relationship. You're looking at it outside of yourself. Yeah. Right?
Right. And it's a limited perspective.
And a
lot of scientists were actually very connected and knew that they had connection to the divine. Nikola Tesla was very much
Albert Einstein,
unified field of everything. He really there are important scientists. Emanuel Swedenborg.
Yes.
All the different some different folks throughout the years that have known that there was a merging of science and spirit.
Right.
And
so that's really the subject that we're looking at. It's like it's understanding that is really important, because if we can continue to diverge ourselves from that other part of ourselves, then I think we're going to have an impoverished, in many ways, existence.
And I describe it as the difference between a sacred versus secular mindset, a sacred versus secular world perspective. So the secular world would say, we don't need religion, we don't need God. Let's just go about our mundane life and hope that people are good and moral and those kinds of things. But the sacred understands that there is history, and that religion is a history keeper, and that we are growing through the spirit, and that all things come from the divine that assist man on the true path. Right. Divine man, divine woman on the path. But there's that sense of order to the universe that I think you and I feel as spiritualists. Yeah. That is such a calming, peaceful thing. It helps us to be calm in the face of other things that erupt in life.
Yeah, and there's that sense of connectedness to what is ultimately important. What is ultimately important is that there is a divine presence everywhere at all times.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Now, and that's a tricky thing, and I think that we are really fortunate to be in the time and place that we are in. We had a discussion earlier about the holographic model.
Yes, yes.
And to me, the holographic model provides a perfect understanding of spiritual notions that were difficult to get to before.
Mm-hmm.
So for anybody that's not familiar with holography, if you were to take there's a film that that has the holographic image on it. When light is shined through that film, you get a 3-dimensional representation out in space of the object that was filmed. All right. Now you can take a piece of that film from anywhere on the film, and if you shine a light through a piece of that film, you get the entire image, but you don't get it as clearly.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Mm-hmm.
So this is a wonderful representation of this understanding of God as it is. The divine is this. I'm trying to remember the exact wordage I think here. At any one point in time and space, the entire universe reflects itself.
There we go.
That's that notion that you've probably heard many times before. God is everywhere. There's no place where God is not. You know, these are like common phrases that have been shared in different religious traditions. But that holographic model gives us a 3-dimensional understanding of it as well.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And when we can understand that, it also gives us access. And for me, it has reinforced the whole experience of healing.
Right.
Because for me, I no longer have, not a scintilla of doubt of the universal presence of healing energy. That all I have to do is connect with that and choose to connect with that, and it will be there. Because it already is there.
It's already there, so it's just bringing it to your consciousness.
But I'm letting myself be more conscious of it.
Do you also think that, back to the reflection understanding, that we're allowing that to be reflected in us?
Yes, as well.
So we're allowing the divine to be reflected in us.
Yes. The more we pay attention to it, the more what's interesting, not only do we recognize acknowledging it in us, we then acknowledge it in other. And that's the real magic of this stuff. It's not, like being on a mountaintop and being the only one acknowledging God. No, that doesn't take us that far.
Right. So it's a reflection within us and a reflection outside of us. But do you feel it's almost like the mind's eye? The idea of the screen of the mind.
Yeah.
And how does that, in your opinion, play into technology today, too? Because there are a lot of screens and what is being reflected. Yes, we can say everything is divine, but on one level, there's that sense of you can feel a bit like after looking at the screen, you almost feel like you need to clean yourself.
So
Does that make sense?
Right,
so
because
clean the screen.
we're projecting the noise in electronics.
Mm-hmm.
We haven't created the inner peace, so we're projecting our noise through the instruments.
Yes.
We're projecting our the disagreeable aspects of ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So insofar as we begin to move in there are good things and bad things with a lot of things. So for instance, one of the good things about the technological age is it has given us a sense of planetary consciousness.
Right, a worldview.
Right, that hasn't really existed before now.
Right.
And that's really that's an important element of possibility for us.
Right.
So if we can work with that in a way that also will support us in our own internal recognition of the divine, then that internal recognition will start to spread throughout the I call it the spirit wide web.
There we go. Yes, spirit wide web.
The spirit wide web. Yeah.
Yeah.
And because the spirit wide web doesn't need electronics.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we can do this, and it has been done, and it is being done. Mm-hmm. Meditation groups around the world, as they're doing this, they're linking. I believe that there's a matrix of consciousness around and through our globe.
Yes.
That is utilizing these connections in the best way possible. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. But it's important for many more of us to wake up to this.
So that we're aware of what we're reflecting and what's on our screen and the screen of our mind. And I remember watching a documentary many years ago now. They had done a study on what was going on in the human brain when we looked at something on the screen. So whatever was happening on the screen, the same places in your brain, because they hooked the people up to boop, 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 whatever that thing is, and they put the suction cups on them, mm-hmm. and the places that lit up in their brain were the same places as if it was happening to them for real in real life. Mm-hmm. So there's that. What are you watching, and how is that being reflected in you energetically? And it does make a difference what you decide to view or watch.
Yeah.
And how that is then lighting up different places in your brain, and how you're connected with the universe or not connected consciously during those times. So it's just something to think about, especially if you're a sensitive.
Yeah. Well, also there are some wonderful things. And sometimes I use the internet to kind of reconnect me with my heart, and I'll find a story about someone who's gone through enormous tragedy and come through it with grace, and
learn from those stories.
Yeah.
Yes.
And that those people have significantly contributed to consciousness, whether it's in their own family, their own community, but as people witness that, they get a deeper understanding within themselves that kind of resourcefulness is possible.
Yes, you can become more resilient in your own life by watching other people and being inspired by them and making the choices in your life to gather your forces of energy and resource.
Yeah.
And it can really make a difference in your perspective of life, because you'll be talking to someone and all of a sudden that video that inspired you will come into your mind, and you'll know this is the moment that I need to show up.
Yeah.
In a bigger way.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah.
So, versus, let's just, for the other side of that, watching people fail.
Yes.
And laughing.
Yeah, and laughing or somehow feeling superior because of it.
Like, look at they did that. Yeah. How stupid they are. Mm-hmm. They did this.
Yeah.
And there's that feeling.
And that is a downward spiral.
And the nasty comments that people put on things, right?
Yeah.
So just from your healer's perspective, what do you feel is happening when people do those kind of commentaries? Like, what do you think's energetically going on? What would you encourage people to do instead?
What they're doing is they're actually exposing their own weaknesses, and they're also exposing their fear of recognizing their own weaknesses.
Oh, wow.
Right.
Deep stuff, guys.
That's what it is. It's a fear.
Yeah.
When you don't want to recognize that's possible within you, mm-hmm. or even likely within you,
mm-hmm. Yeah. And that shows up.
You make those judgments, and it's not a good place of unconsciousness to be in.
Instead of super consciousness, you're unconscious.
Yeah. Yeah. And truth be told, we're all unconscious to a significant degree.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Or, because we are in a 3D reality.
Yeah.
And in this 3D reality, it is not possible to be 100% conscious of the all.
At all times.
At all times, exactly.
Yes.
Yeah, you can have glimpses of that, but
4D,
you're not going to be
5D,
there. Yeah,
6D.
but as long as we're in this body, but it's also our obligation in this body to own this body and to have it manifest as much of the infinite as possible. Mm-hmm. Through this particular form.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And again, that's that interplay between going into the silence, acknowledging, that there's more behind you than you could ever consciously imagine.
I call that the safety net of the universe.
Yeah, exactly.
Like right about the time you're like, but I don't feel like I have a harness on. This is horrible. Right. And you just have to remember there's a safety net of the universe that's going to catch you.
Yeah.
In those moments. And even for the people that have to go, way down deep somehow, they have to hit rock bottom. There's always something that will lift them up if they allow. Because healing is all about what we allow.
And, of course, the central problem is over-identification with our misery.
Oh, there we go. It's almost Buddhist in the sense of, life is suffering. Yeah. Are we connecting too much with our misery?
Yeah, well, I don't believe all life is suffering, but I do believe in over-identification with suffering.
Oh, yeah. And we can get into a victim mode of, why me? This is happening to me. I have pain. I have emotional pain. Like Eckhart Tolle, he talks about the pain body. Yeah. And that is when something happens, it'll make the pain body will start crying out, no, I want something else. This is too hard. This is too whatever. And you can very much destroy moving ahead in your life because you're embracing that other role of the victim of the pain.
Well, with the restructuring work, I've come to understand it's far more mechanistic than that. And the emotional body is far more mechanistic, and that there is very specific lines of behavior, if you will, that are drawn out in that body. And if you are able to identify that stuff, acknowledge it, recognize it, it can vanish in an instant.
It can vanish in an instant, just like that.
Yeah, just like that. And then you're a different person. Your body, your energy has realigned with your spiritual core. When you become less identified with your misery.
Right. This is very true. Yeah. And so sometimes people are just exhausted, they're tired, and they get on their phones or they're on computers, and they feel some sort of, this is helping me in this moment, a veg out moment, right? Yeah. A veg out moment. When they're having those experiences, do you feel that that's the instance where they have to say to themselves, I'm putting this down?
Every experience is a little bit different. It depends on what might have precipitated the veg out moment. And if it's only a moment, maybe there's a learning going on.
Right. But if it's going on for hours.
If it goes on forever, then it's, there's something to pay attention to. Yeah.
And also, I know that in terms of technology, like my own children, I've had to watch those tendencies. They're all like, well, so-and-so gets to play this game online, or so, they're great kids, but we all have that sense of wanting to push a little bit beyond their prescribed time. So
Sure.
And as adults, we do that too.
Right. And then even before, that's just children wanting to expand their horizons in however way they can.
Sure.
Because, even before the technology that's around now, when I was a kid, we were busy trying to expand our horizons.
This is true.
In our best ways. Yeah, right, yeah. So, yeah. But you're right. There are, to the degree that there are elements of that hypnotic piece that's associated with that stuff. That's the stuff as a parent you want to be mindful of. Yeah. Yeah.
Absolutely, because you're having to raise children through this generation of technology that's going on, and how to keep it back to the spirituality, how to take it back there constantly. And I think by working with our children, we're also working with ourselves.
Oh, yeah.
I was blessed to grow up in a household where my parents would take TV away from us, not because we'd been bad, but because they knew that it wasn't healthy for us. And so, there wasn't much whining or complaining. It was just, that's what it is. And, it's time to go read, or it's time to do these chores, or it was, I look back on that and I don't remember complaining too much through it, because I just kept busy with other things. And I think that is what helped me to then have focus in other areas of my life, other times of my life, that has been something that's a resource for me, and even rearing my own children, but in my own eternal learning that I'm in.
Well, I can confess that it wasn't a dilemma at all in my life, because I grew up with radio.
Oh, there you go. So you'd be like, the radio.
I'm in a couple of generations before you, but but it was interesting, Well,
my friends remember that at one point, because we could only watch movies, and my parents had it the TV was in the basement. Now in winter, that is especially cold, so we'd be bundled in our winter coats, trying to get popcorn and blankets, so we could watch a movie.
Oh, wow.
But, it was the one way of assuring that it was not going to be, we weren't going to stay there in Arctic conditions.
Yeah. Yeah, no, but I actually have, vivid memories of listening to radio programs. Yeah.
But with radio, there's that, your imaging faculty is not taken over, because you are still in charge of it, and the words are only mere suggestions.
Yes.
And you're the one putting picture to what's going on.
Right.
You might have a little, thing that might happen if, let's say, remember when the War of the Worlds came on and how people responded to that. But it's different than, I think, the visual stimuli. When you have the visual and the sound at the same time, and then they even have mastered the 3D effect coming at you from the screen too.
Yeah, actually, there's a radio station, AM 740 in Toronto, that still does some
they do
old-time radio shows.
And radio plays and things like that.
Yeah. They have Sergeant Preston of the Yukon, and
Very cool.
Yeah. The Lone Ranger, I remember the Lone Ranger on radio.
And there's a delight in that.
Yeah.
That level of technology didn't take us into the other thing. But then let's talk about maybe waves in terms of the frequencies of technology.
Yes, that's getting a lot more specific on, because we all know, it's pretty clear now, and even modern physics, it's that everything boils down to frequency,
Yes.
And so with that as a backdrop and understanding, the repetitive kind of exposure to certain frequencies are likely to create certain tendencies.
Yes, right.
And we don't know what they are yet.
Yeah, so I remember learning that there's a triad of things that go on. There's energy, vibration, and frequency. And we always have to keep those in mind with our activities. That triad is in effect when you're doing healing, when you're doing mediumship, when you're interacting with other people and even the divine. But to some extent, we have to take that and understand how that's affecting us through technology as well, the frequency of those things.
Well, let me throw another wrench into this.
Oh, let's do it.
And that is, because this is something I've felt from doing voice healing, from doing, if there's both frequency and rhythm, and rhythm is another sort of overlay on frequency.
True.
Right?
Yeah.
It has significant impact as well. Someone would say, well, it's frequent. No, but there are frequencies overlaying frequencies.
Sure.
And interspersing with frequency. So what we have is this conglomeration or agglomeration, if you will, of frequency, and that takes everything to another level, being to understand how frequencies and rhythms interact with each other.
All you have to do is sit down at a drumming jam session, boom, 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 and you're trying to get everybody aligned. But some people they have their own rhythms, and you might do the underlaying of those.
That's
rhythms,
right. Yeah.
And what comes from that. So let's lean into that for a little bit.
Yeah, so there's so much that is kind of underexplored, I think, in this arena, and hopefully we will sooner than later begin to, as individuals, experience ways of measuring this for ourselves, you know, and so that we can utilize these we'll call them laws, if you will, you know,
laws
kind
of
of
energy.
laws of creation or energy,
physics, and
exactly,
of how that's all playing into this human experience that we're having.
That's right. Yeah.
And how the technology plays into that, because it can affect people. I personally know people who are very affected by energy and the frequency of items or technology. I know a couple people that they can't be around a computer because it goes, or they can't wear a watch because it's not going to work for them. So they're able to stop time.
I also thought of a meditation that might be helpful for the closure today. So.
Yes, I'd love to do that.
Yeah.
Is there any other thoughts before we do that meditation? Anything you wanted to share in terms of spirituality versus technology?
I think we've expressed pretty well what the what people should be looking out for, you know, for themselves. I think, you know, to look at what really is distracting you in your life, so that you can find ways to go to center.
Yes.
You know, and I think that's the important message of what, you know, of what this topic is.
Find ways to go to center so that you can be in alignment.
Yes.
With what you know to be highest and best good for you, so that you can be in attunement with the divine in your consciousness and make decisions from that mode instead of a mood.
Yeah.
That's how I would say that.
Yeah, right. And given the many ways we can be distracted right now, you really do have to make it a point to yourself to take yourself out of that.
Yes, because you could go into a fear mode about things, and we don't want that.
No.
We want you to get into that place of peace
and relaxation
and choice, and how you're going to react to the events of your life or the events that are happening on technology or are shared in those, and try to use it for its highest and best good.
And probably, I'm sure that many of your listeners have a meditation practice, and it's just to remember not to put that aside, you know.
That's right.
You know, and because my sense is, if you do that, then you will be spontaneously drawn to do it more. That's right. When the time is right, when it's necessary, you know.
And you'll be able to find that moment whenever you need it. Sometimes it's as quick as just breathing in a certain way, and you know you found that pattern for you that is healing.
And also and then the final piece, look for the presence of the divine everywhere. That's simple. If we start to do that, then the noise isn't as overwhelming. Right. Yeah.
And I mean, I'm sure we've all had those instances where we've just had a conversation with someone about a particular subject, and the next thing you know, it shows up on your phone. Either they're telling you something, or there's a podcast about that sort of thing.
Yes.
And this goes back to the hologram effect, the reflective. I would say, be conscious of what you're speaking about and what's being reflected back to you.
Yes, that's really a good point.
Because technology will, because the algorithms and whatnot, will reflect a certain thing back to you. It's not, and please remember that what gets reflected back to you is not always what you have said, but what others have said, and you have amplified or magnified.
Mm-hmm.
So we have to be conscious of those things as well.
Yes. Yeah.
Well, I'm excited about the meditation you're going to lead us in.
Okay. Well, I want to describe, because this ties into this being connected to the universe, and in various ways. I call it vital currents, and it's based on this proposition that everything that's in existence has associated with it a divine vital current of energy that sustains and supports it in its particular unique expression in the universe, right? Mm-hmm. So you as an individual, you have a vital current that's sustaining, supporting, and really endeavoring to uplift you and toward your highest expression. Well, every other thing does too. So I'm going to use for you to be. I want you to consider expanding your awareness after we do one vital current, your personal vital current, to the vital current of your family, for instance, right? Mm-hmm. And then the vital current of the human species, because collectively we also have what I would say divine currents of energy that's supporting the development of all humankind. Yes. So we have a divine current that's also supporting the development of the entire planet and all life on the planet, the solar system, the galaxy, and the manifest universe. Mm-hmm. So we're going to go through these vital currents, and each time I want you to just kind of allow your awareness to expand to include that. But in expanding your awareness, I don't want you to forget your body. I want it to be included in your body. All right. So this is not something I want you to kind of go away to do. I want you to, and this is very valuable for all of us, to stay present in our body while simultaneously being aware of these other supportive influences in our being. Okay, and that having been said, we're ready to go.
You bet.
So as we begin, I would encourage everyone to just take a deep breath and allow your energy and awareness to settle into your body. And as it settles into your body, also be aware of your breathing becoming still more relaxed with every successive breath. Feeling more present in your body, and also beginning to feel the vital current of energy that sustains, nurtures, and uplifts you toward your greatest, most harmonious expression. Feel as though you're relaxing into the comfort, the uplifting essence of that inner spirit vital current. And be grateful. Let yourself feel gratitude that that's always there for you. Now allow your awareness to expand, still centered in your body. Allow your awareness to expand to include the vital current of your family. How the vital currents of your individual family members, are working together to create the highest expression, the most harmonious expression of your family essence and energy. And the loving bond that allows that to work in harmony. and supports it working in harmony. Still centered in your body, allow your awareness to expand to include all of humankind. The vital current of energy that sustains, nurtures, and uplifts humanity towards its most harmonious expression. Still centered in your body, allow your awareness to expand to include all of Earth, our entire planet, and all life on this planet. The vital current that sustains, nurtures, and uplifts our world towards its most harmonious expression. Still centered in the body, allow your awareness to expand to include our solar system and the vital current of energy that sustains, nurtures, uplifts our entire solar system towards its most harmonious expression. Still centered in the body, allow your awareness to expand to include the Milky Way galaxy and the vital current of energy that sustains, nurtures, and uplifts our galaxy towards its greatest, most harmonious expression in creation. Still centered in your body, allow your awareness to expand to include the entire manifest universe and the vital current of energy that sustains, nurtures, and uplifts all of physical creation towards its greatest expression. And now be aware simultaneously of both the vital current of the universe and the galaxy in harmony. And add to that the vital current of the solar system. Add to that the vital current of Earth. Add to that the vital current of humankind. Add to that the vital current of your family. And finally add to that your own personal vital current. So simultaneously, all the vital currents working in harmony that support the universe and support you. Allowing them to support a more balanced expression of your personal energy in your body and in your life. We remember to be grateful for this presence, this infinite presence of life-affirming, life-supporting, harmony-supporting essence and energy in our world, in our bodies, and in our lives. For this, we are all grateful. Amen. And you can gradually bring your awareness to your environment in the room you're in. I'm also aware, I want to thank all of those who have done this with us, because when there's a group doing things, it always amplifies the experience. So I want to thank each and every one of you that took the time to do this. Not only for myself personally, but for the good that it's done for all of us. Yeah.
Thank you, Tom. That was wonderful. That was wonderful. I'm so glad that you were able to share that with us and lead us through such a beautiful experience. And so weaving those together, braiding them together. It's like a piece on earth, braiding that together experience. And it's a beautiful chord of life. Yeah. And it kind of reminds me of... there are music programs, and you can lay down a track of this and a track of that, and all of a sudden you can make your own music in that regard. Yeah. And when you take time to pay attention to it, you know it's real. Yeah. And that's that value of it, taking time to pay attention to it. You actually feel the benefit of it. Which is good. Were there any questions or anything? I don't think there are any questions. I think everybody was blissing out. Oh, okay. They were blissing out with this, but it's just beautiful that you have been able to wrap that up so beautifully with a meditation and help people to understand that they can connect with the all that is. Yeah. And I don't know if anybody else feels this, but it's almost like a little extra kind of vibe feel. Oh yeah. Now. Of course, I have. And sitting right next to to someone doing it also, amplifies it. So I want to thank you for that, Willa. I was so in it. It was really beautiful. Thank you, Tom, for being on the show today. Tom Cratsley is wonderful, and again, I remind people that he'll be on the summer season program with his Healing Mastery week. And later in the summer, I'll also be doing a class on the healing voice. Mm-hmm. Teaching people how to project healing tones. Yeah. And then on Friday nights, I think I'm still going to be. Last year, I did every Friday night a healing circle, healing meditation circle, development circle at the Healing Temple. So probably. If you're making plans to be here in Lilydale this summer, those are beautiful events that you can take part of with Tom, and you can find more about Tom on his website, tomcratsley.com. because he is a spiritual healer, and he does work as a restructuring practitioner, which is a healing technique that he developed. And if you want more information about that, look at his website, or you can look at the past shows of Willa. Wednesdays with Willa, when Tom was on, we did restructuring bad habits, and he talked extensively about what's involved with that. And also the healing voice, so you can get some preliminary stuff before you actually take the class too. Oh, thank you so much, Tom. And I hope everyone can join us next week. I'll have as my guest Barbara Sanson. We're going to be talking about polarities for spiritual healing. You're not going to want to miss that. All right, everyone. Thanks so much. Bye-bye.
Bye. Thanks.